Have you ever imagined falling in love with a robot? Or maybe having one as your closest confidant, your therapist, your best friend? It sounds like something straight out of a movie, right? We've seen it time and time again in science fiction, from the compassionate androids in Star Trek to the complex love stories in films like Her and Ex Machina. These stories make us wonder, could a machine, a piece of code and hardware, ever truly replace a human connection? Is it possible for us to form genuine emotional bonds with an artificial being? This isn't just a fantasy anymore. The world of robotics and artificial intelligence is advancing at a breathtaking pace. We're seeing androids that look and move with incredible realism. Engineers are pouring countless hours into creating machines that can mimic human expressions, understand our emotions, and even learn from their interactions with us. The goal? To create robots that can seamlessly integrate into our lives, not just as tools but as companions. But as we get closer to this reality, a strange and fascinating psychological phenomenon comes into play. Something that might be the biggest hurdle in the future of human-robot relationships. It's called the uncanny valley. So what exactly is the uncanny valley? The term was coined back in 1970 by a Japanese robotics professor named Masahiro Mori. He proposed a fascinating theory. Imagine a graph. On one axis, you have how human-like a robot is, and on the other, you have our emotional response to it. When a robot looks very, well, robotic, think of a classic industrial robot arm or a cute little vacuum cleaner, we generally feel fine about it. As it starts to look more human-like, say, like a friendly cartoon character, our affinity for it increases. We find it cute, endearing. But then something strange happens. As the robot gets almost perfectly human, but not quite, our positive feelings suddenly plummet. We don't just feel neutral. We feel a sense of unease, revulsion, or even creepiness. That deep dip in our emotional response is the uncanny valley. It's the feeling you get when you see a CGI character that's almost realistic but has dead, lifeless eyes, or a mannequin that looks just a little too real. It's that subtle wrongness that sets off alarm bells in our brains. Mori suggested that this feeling comes from our brains detecting something that looks human but lacks the subtle cues of life we instinctively expect. Slight flush of skin, the tiny involuntary muscle twitches, the spark of genuine consciousness in the eyes. It's like our brain is flagging it as a potential threat, something pretending to be one of us. Think about some of the early attempts at hyper-realistic androids, or even some CGI in movies. They often fall deep into this valley. They might have perfect skin texture and realistic hair, but their movements are just a little too stiff. Their smiles don't quite reach their eyes, or their speech is perfectly synthesized but lacks real emotional inflection. This mismatch between appearance and behavior is what makes us feel uncomfortable. It's not just a matter of aesthetics. It's a deep-seated psychological response. Our brains are hardwired to recognize and connect with other humans, and when something impersonates that but gets it slightly wrong, it feels like a glitch in our social reality. Interestingly, Mori's theory also suggests that once a robot crosses the valley, becoming so indistinguishable from a human that we can't tell the difference, our affinity for it shoots back up, possibly even higher than for another human. But getting across that valley is the monumental challenge for roboticists and AI developers today. They are constantly working to perfect the micro-expressions, the subtle gestures, and the natural conversational flow that make us feel at ease with another being. They're trying to build a bridge over that creepy chasm. Now it's important to mention that the uncanny valley isn't some universally accepted law of psychology. It's still a hotly debated topic. Some psychologists argue that the experience of the uncanny valley is highly subjective. What one person finds creepy, another might find fascinating or even beautiful. Our individual experiences, cultural backgrounds, and personal expectations all play a role in how we perceive these near-human entities. For example, someone who grew up playing video games with realistic characters might be less prone to feeling unsettled than someone who has had very little exposure to this kind of technology. Furthermore, some researchers believe the uncanny feeling isn't about the robot itself, but about the existential questions it raises. When we see something that looks and acts so much like us, it can make us confront our own mortality and what it truly means to be human. Is consciousness just a complex algorithm? Is our sense of self just an illusion? These are big, uncomfortable questions, and an almost human robot can act as a mirror, forcing us to look at them. So the revulsion we feel might not be about the robot's slightly off smile, but about the profound philosophical anxieties it triggers within us. Despite these debates, the concept of the uncanny valley remains incredibly influential in fields like robotics, animation, and video game design. Creators are constantly trying to navigate it. Some try to avoid it altogether by designing robots that are stylistically non-human, like the adorable Wall-E. Others bravely try to cross it, pushing the boundaries of realism in hopes of achieving that perfect, seamless, human-like companion. They are programming AIs with vast datasets of human emotion and conversation, designing synthetic skin that can blush, and creating artificial muscles that can replicate the subtle unconscious movements of a living person. So where does this leave us? Will we ever be able to have a robot lover, therapist, or friend without feeling that deep, instinctual creepiness? The truth is, humans are incredibly adaptable. Think about the things we form emotional connections with already. People love their cars, they talk to their plants, and they form incredibly deep bonds with their pets, who are, after all, non-human beings. We project our own feelings and intentions onto them, and in return, we receive companionship and comfort. We create relationships in our minds. A pet dog, for example, can't have a deep philosophical conversation with you. It doesn't understand the nuances of your bad day at work. But when it curls up next to you, licks your hand, and looks at you with those loving eyes, you feel a genuine connection. You feel seen and loved. Who's to say we couldn't eventually do the same with a highly advanced android? Perhaps the key isn't creating a perfect imitation of a human, but creating a companion that fulfills our fundamental need for connection, understanding, and affection, even if we know on some level that it's a machine. The future of these relationships will likely depend less on the technology itself, and more on us, our willingness to accept new forms of companionship, and our ability to see beyond the silicon and circuits to the potential for a meaningful bond. It might not be the same as a human relationship, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be valuable in its own right. As AI continues to evolve, we may find that our capacity for love and friendship is far broader than we ever imagined. The idea of a robot friend or even a lover might seem strange now, but for future generations it could be just another way to find connection in an increasingly complex world. What do you think? Could you ever form a deep emotional bond with an android? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the future of relationships, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that makes you think. See you in the next one.